Okay, I want to talk to you about the exhaust manifold problem that I had. I'm trying to solve now. Is that it turns out that the airplane, when I received it, had an exhaust manifold from a short wing Piper. And if you would look at the manifolds from a Super Cub and the short wing varieties, it would be really hard to tell the difference by looking at them unless you put them side by side. But it turns out that short wing Pipers have an extra inch approximately in this leg right here. And I noticed that this side of the muffler was hard up against the firewall when I disassembled the aircraft, and I kind of filed that information away. I didn't really know the answer to it at the time. But when I started putting things back together, I noticed I had the same problem. And so I checked on supercub.org, which is a fantastic website. They're not sponsoring me or this video or anything like that, but I use supercub.org for information on everything I do with this build and any other work that I do on airplanes. The forums are top drawer. There's guys on there that know what they're talking about and have done it before. And I don't mention names in these silly videos that I make, because sooner or later I'm going to do something to embarrass somebody. I don't want anyone to think that they're condoning me or that they've given me any guidance, because most of those guys have a business to run, and they've got credibility. I don't have any of that. I'm just a guy that's learning and having fun. So, but you go on there and you'll see who the guys are that know what they're talking about and have the answers. So anyway, I messed up the weld. I cut an inch out and I welded these back together. Everything fit really good, but my weld was terrible. You might be able to see the oxidation, or the sugar they call it, on the inside, and the cap doesn't look very good either. I had too much heat, too little argon on the inside purge, because this is stainless. You have to have a double purge. So what I had to do is I had to cut this bad weld out. I had to order a piece of tubing the same diameter and the same wall thickness, and it's about $25 an inch to get a piece of tubing to fit this. So I only ordered 2 inches, and I've got a tack weld in right now. So now what I'm going to do is remove this manifold from the airplane and weld this out, and hopefully make some decent welds this time. So here we've got the little tabs that hold the flying wires that brace the tail. This is the back end of the fuselage. And a while back there was a bulletin to install this safety plate which reinforces those tabs. And this plane had this installed correctly, but these tabs, the welds were broken off. So the tabs were just sitting loose, and this plate was holding the load, which is a darn good thing, because that certainly would have been a mishap if the flying wires had come loose because of these welds. So what I did was I cleaned these up, and I found these welds to have quite a bit of porosity. They were pretty ugly. I'm not sure if they had been previous repairs. Most likely they were, because I can't imagine they left the factory like that. Anyway, I cleaned them up and welded them back on with some decent welds, and I'm going to reinstall this plate the way it should be. But that's something you need to look at in your pre-flights, and I found this out. I was getting a little lackadaisical on my pre-flights, and I would always look. I always look to make sure that all the fasteners have their nuts and screws in place, cotter pins if they have cotter pins, and I'm always looking at the flying wires. But for a little while I got out of the habit of plucking the flying wires, and we found one on the Pawnee that actually had worn on the little fitting that holds the little collet that holds the wire, and it had worn almost through. And visually everything was there. You could look at it and it looked fine, but unless you grabbed it or plucked it like, you know, a guitar string, then you would know, then you would have noticed right away that there was something wrong. So that was a good reminder to me to put that back in my pre-flight, because losing one of those is a bad day. So it was a good reminder to me, and maybe it's a good reminder to you. Now, let's go over and look at the welding setup a little bit. Those of you that weld stainless already know what one of these regulators looks like. But basically, here's a single regulator, and basically this measures the pressure in your bottle, and then you can adjust it to your flow rate. This is a single regulator, which is fine for carbon steel TIG welding. When you're doing stainless, you got to do a back purge inside. So this is really handy, because now you can have your flow rate for your torch and your flow rate for your purge, or vice versa, whichever way you want to set these up. So super handy if you're doing any exhaust pipe welding or that kind of thing for airplanes or cars. And so I bought one of these to do the repair on the exhaust pipe, and this worked out great. What I had done in the weld that I showed you guys that didn't work out very well, I used my single regulator, and I spliced into the line going to the torch and teed off. I basically put a T in the line, and I used that for my purge at the same rate that I was flowing to my torch. Well, generally you use, say, 35 cubic feet per hour. I'm just, you know, as a ballpark, coming to your torch. For your back purge, you would probably only use like maybe 10. So different purge rates, you know, different situations. I'm not saying that's what you should use, but you know, that's just that's close to what I used for this little exhaust project. Anyway, that's my setup. I've got I use this little TIG machine. It's a made in China machine. Very economical to buy. I think it was like $300 or $350 or something like that. It's got a pedal, and it's a straight DC TIG machine. You can't weld aluminum with it, but you can weld carbon and stainless. So for the money, and you know, I've used this thing for this entire project, and I'm happy. I mean, for that kind of money, this thing has performed very well. I mean, it certainly doesn't have all the features that you'll get with a Miller or a Lincoln, but you know, at that price point, I'm not complaining. Alright guys, so got the exhaust manifold finished welded. Now it's certainly not the most beautiful exhaust tube welds that you will ever see, that's for sure, but they're good. I inspected them with a borescope, and they're nice and shiny and flush inside, fairly flush. Not again, not the most beautiful welds you've ever seen, but I don't have the oxidation problem and overheating problem that I had before. So aside from my amateur technique, I got good cleaning, good purge, and I think that hopefully we'll see a long service with no cracking. And it also conforms to the dimensions of a Super Cub exhaust manifold. Alright guys, I just want to give you an update on the propeller situation. So, the situation is that I have purchased a used one. It's hopefully going to be starting its journey toward my shop tomorrow, and it's a Macaulay bore 82 inch diameter by 41 pitch. And like I said, it's a used prop in good condition. So the one that was on the plane was the same manufacturer, Macaulay bore, and it was 82-inch diameter by 42 pitch. So that prop is covered by an STC, which is documented for this airplane. And that particular STC allows a range of pitches from 41 to, I believe, 44 pitch, all the same diameter. So I can switch under the STC that I have from the 42, which was on it, to the 41. I feel pretty good about the 41 for this project. It is a seriously climb end of the spectrum for that range. And, I was kind of looking around to replace the 42 with a 42. But I'm interested to see how this engine will perform and how the plane will perform eventually with this prop. I think it's probably okay, is my gut feeling. The project that I did previously, where I built the PA-12, which there's a YouTube video on that project. It's been a minute since I did all that, but I believe that prop was an 8241. I was happy with that. It performed very well. And I think that this is probably going to work out. So I'm going to cut out some material here because that's really boring. So the next video that I do will hopefully be the engine all buttoned up, the prop installed, will be outside with the airplane secured, and I'll start the engine. And the objective here is to check for any fuel leaks, any oil leaks, make sure that everything's good with the engine without any major problems. Tighten up anything I need to tighten up, hopefully minor stuff, get everything buttoned up, get the IA's final inspection and sign off for the fuselage to be covered, set that aside. Then I'm going to start the repairs on the wings so that I can get those signed off for cover, and then I'm going to do the covering and the painting all at once. That's the plan. So we'll do some more videos, but probably the next one, the engine's going to start.